Welcome to the grand final of the annual National English Debating Tournament 2022. The tournament is being organized by Educated Enterprise. This is a social enterprise in Mongolia, along with many partners with whose generous support this event has become possible. And we've had today, including today and yesterday, we had 2 intense days of tournament. This tournament, we have registered 32 teams from over 15-16 schools in Mongolia. The teams have engaged in 2 days of intense debate sessions. We had 5 rounds of, the tournament has 5 rounds of elimination, and this is the 5th round, which is the grand final. I would like to now introduce our honorable panel of judges, starting with Mr. Jonathan Warner. He's the headmaster from British School of Ulaanbaatar. Also, Ms. Bolgan Toya Khurelbatar, Member of the Parliament of Mongolia. And Ms. Ingtsul Argadol, the founder of Educated Enterprise. I would also like to introduce our timekeeper, Ms. Jonailam Ingbatar, Shanghai University student. I myself will be the moderator for this grand final. My name is Ider Batbayar. I am the educator at Educated Enterprise, teaching debating and public speaking skills to our members. And most importantly, I would like to introduce our 2 teams. On the proposition side, we have Team Unity from Mongol Aspiration. On the opposition position, we have Team Sant from Sant School. Before we start, I would like to make few housekeeping rules. Please, absolutely no noise from the audience, because we really would like our finalists have their best game in this round. Also, once again, phones on silent or on airplane mode, please. For both teams, debating is not only an educational exercise, but also it is a culture. So, reminding both teams to keep the integrity at its best. During the first 6 speeches, teams will either receive POIs from the other. Teams will receive POIs, or the point of information, from the other team. Each speaker must receive or accept 2 POIs. When you wish to make or request POI, please stand up and do on that point, please. POIs are in length of 15 seconds. It can be either questions or negations. Also, teams are given empty paper and no verbal communication between team members throughout the tournament, only by writing. Without further ado, and just before that, I would also like to introduce our cameraman, Mr. Hiroshi Sunairi. He's here on his winter holiday from New York City. He's the art teacher at New York University, as well as an award-winning filmmaker. All right, without further ado, let us start this round hearing from the first proposition speaker from Team Unity.
In Imagine this. You are a young adult. You have your own ideologies to express. Perhaps you would like to reform education or the child care you receive, but you cannot vote. Almost like you have your mouth forced out to shut down by the hands of disconnected adults. This cannot be allowed. I said that they will be allowed to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, the motion for today is that this House would allow children to vote. Let us introduce us. I'm the first speaker. As the second speaker of our Chingu, and our third speaker is Imujang, and our fourth speaker is Unat is there. First, let us define some important terms in this section. Children. Children are either one is that young children, newborn to 13 years old, and the young adults 14 to 18. In this case, we'll be considering young adults. Vote. Representing the government to produce better arguments. Our parameter is the countries that representation. We have 5 arguments to introduce. First is representation. Almost every minority groups have some of the shortest representations for their ideas and rights. Women were also once considered capable of the voting. Black people and Jews were also buried too young because they were considered as subhumans. Why not female adults as well? We are human too. There is no reason to ask why children can't have representation too. Our second argument is that interests are shown with human rights. By allowing to no representation, these interests of female adults are neglected. This erases the human rights to the represented in the country. This human right to represented is a travels. Young adults have different voices and perspectives and interests, such as to voice political opinion. For example, that in the rape cases of the young girls to have in Mongolian, we receive only 4,000 K and Togruks as a consideration. As a young girl, I'm afraid of this. I want to express my feeling. I want to vote in this session. Our third argument is more diverse opinions on democracy streets. Female adults are already capable of independent thinking, and thus will understand what we want. Be more voices and perspectives streets. More balanced policies are adopted. Most policy in the education. Young people know better than us in education. We all know that. I mean that there are ones in school. They are the one. You are you? Female adults are living in the society created by governments, so they have the right to interpret and express the feeling and their opinion of the government who should be in the charger, especially education and child cases. Our fourth argument is that there are almost adults 16 years old. Even the 14 years old in some countries are allowed to drink. So why not to vote? Drinking is allowed and voting is not. Age of consent is the 14. Look at the Greta Thunberg, the 17 years old civilian and the semi-adult who voiced her opinion in the United Nations and successfully drew the global attention to climate change. Her case proud to be becoming effective political voters too. Kids with the age 16 allowed to work, then why want to be able to voting? They are earning income and living in their country system. We are having the debate, are fully capable and making decisions and have learned a lot about the economic and politicals. Are many similar adults like us exist and therefore it is the good idea to vote. Now to look at the countries such as Japan and Spain, young adults, especially girls, want to charge in this case. Lot need to us. Our last argument is that ageism. Boomers and Zoomers between the generations can be decreased. Hating between them decreased, obviously. Also, discrimination such as selecting older people to younger become the job and combated. Speaking of the job, we are to have different voices and making this whole the working system. So why don't voting? We have everything, but no voting. It's time to let our future to more independent and let us have to be in here freedom and human rights. I would like to vote in every session. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much to our first proposition speaker from Team Unity. On this motion, this House would allow children to vote.
5 minutes and 5 seconds.
I would like to now invite first opposition speaker from Team Sant.
May I please start? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed judges and fellow debaters. As mentioned today, we will be debating on the topic, this House would allow children to vote. As our team firmly and completely disagree with the topic stated, on each speech given by our team members, including myself, the first speaker, representing 4 crucial points in support of our side today. Along with our second speaker, elaborating on arguments mentioned by the first speaker, whilst bringing up crucial points. Followed by our third speaker, who will sum up every rationally factual argument we present, defeat arguments brought up by the proposition team, and further explain why our team should win this debate. We define the given topic as a policy that will enable anyone from the age of 6 to 17 to vote and therefore influence the outcome of a given election. As of that, we present our 4 main points. 1. Scientifically proven that children are biologically underdeveloped. 2. Childhood is about learning as much about the world as possible before becoming a competent enough person to effect it. 3. The high possibility of maliciously targeting children in order to influence their decision is given in a political corruption. 4. Politics potentially losing its meaning when involving such young children. Now, the human brain is developed by repeating a certain task. When they have pressure to make a crucial decision such as voting, they won't have the luxury of failing and learning. From that mistake, the developing brain of a child would be unable to make such major decisions. 2. If children does not fully understand what they want, how would they make a logical decision of policy making, thus impacting the livelihoods of millions, if not billions? Early years of a child's developing age they're mentally incapable of making a positive change, yet even a change in the political sector of our society. Education-wise, it's highly unlikely that their reasoning would be a logically, morally, and a socially correct one. 3. Politics would lose its sole purpose of serving the public right. The core value of a democratic country is about equal representation of all people. And when we introduce a group of young children who can be easily forced or even manipulated, it will create inequality of disastrous measures. As the high possibility of targeting political campaigns towards little children who are incapable of making such major decisions is a big mistake. Now, on our side of the House, we broadly decided to declare that children should not be allowed to vote. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, opposition first speaker.
Speech duration, 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
I would like to now invite second proposition speaker.
Proposition here today is to convince the audience that children are indeed allowed to vote. So, I will be opposing the arguments of the other team. Number one, they claimed that science has proven that children are biologically inferior to adults and thus cannot be allowed to vote because they cannot have critical thinking. However, what about 90-year-old people who are allowed to vote but are more susceptible to be biologically challenged in terms of intelligence? This is hypocritical. They have the same issue, however, one group is allowed to vote while the other group is not. We cannot accept this. As mentioned previously by our first member, young people need political representation. When 90-year-olds who have the same issue as young people can vote and have political representation, why can't young people? I would like to ask that question from the opposition. Now, moreover, they asserted that young people don't know what they want. What kind of person doesn't know what they want? Everybody has their own political opinion or their own expression that they would like to say. For example, let's take the example of Greta Thunberg, a 17-year-old Swedish child, a young adult, who went to the United Nations and successfully gave a speech expressing her political opinions. Her speech has given more development to the issue of climate change. Meanwhile, politicians, adult politicians such as Donald Trump, deny climate change. This proves that children are in fact capable of having stronger and more based arguments than adults. Now, next up, the opposition team provides the argument that there can be malicious targeting of young people or a sort of brainwashing to make them vote for other policies. However, they haven't provided any concrete evidence as to what that young people can be subject to vote for. What kind of policy will young people vote for when they're brainwashed? The other team has not provided their evidence. Therefore, I believe that this argument is ineffective here. Now, they have also mentioned in their fourth argument that politics is going to lose its meaning. However, children are an essential part of politics. We engage in climate change politics in order to save, the children. We engage in politics regarding child care because it concerns our children. And thus, children are essential parts of politics. And therefore, let me reiterate. We talk over and over and over again about how we must save this next generation, about how we must save the future. However, how about we let these future people who are going to be our next generation a voice in politics? They have their own unique propositions as well, and we cannot just deny them. Now, yes?
Do you believe that these future generations of people right now today will be considerate of the other people just like them at their age of what they want, what they would desire from a policy design or a decision maker?
Children right now are subject to political censorship. They are not allowed to vote for themselves. So they're going to understand that this prejudice is harmful. So in the future, when they are the ones who are leading their next generation, they will understand and be and have less ageism. Now, speaking of ageism, our fourth argument, as mentioned by our first member, is that ageism can be decreased. Now, what is ageism? It's when there's a generational hatred between young people and old people. Now, we've all heard of boomers, doomers, and other derogatory terms. Hate between generations impedes politics. This is the real opponent of politics here. And moreover, there is real cases of discrimination in terms of age. Let's say, for example, that there are two people. One of them is old and the other one is young. The young people has had more experience in a certain field. Let's say, for example, manual labor, engineering. But most employers are discriminatory. They would rather choose the old person with less job experience than the young person with more education and job experience. Therefore, this is a law, this is a social sort of law that's discriminatory to young people. And to give them voice in politics and let them vote, we are able to fight back against the ageism. Now, to build up on our first member's arguments, women, Jews, black people, and children, what do they all have in common? At one point in their history, they were not allowed to vote. In terms of minority groups such as Black people and Jews, they were considered subhuman and quote-unquote incapable of making political decisions nor voting. This is the same case right here. The opposition says that children are biologically inferior to others. We're all the same human. How can you say that biological inferiority is a thing? That is no such thing. And therefore, we believe that young people are humans just like Jews, Black people, or adults, and therefore they should have the right to vote. Now, on to our second argument, is that democracy strengthens. Now, what is democracy? It's a bundle of ideas, a bundle of groups, minorities, all who give their own judgment and opinions to have their voice reflected within politics and government. If we allow young people to vote, then their voices, their perspectives are able to enter politics as well. We have more diverse opinions within our government, leading to more balanced policy making up the higher levels. Therefore, we believe that giving more people more rights to vote in politics allows for a stronger democracy that stands for human rights. Now, on to human rights. This is our third argument. Humans have the inherent right to be represented by their government. We believe this full-heartedly. Therefore, every minority groups, whether they're without discrimination, should be allowed to vote. This is upholding human rights. And if we bar them from not even being able to voice their own judgments, this is crossing human rights. We are undermining the basic principle of democracy. Therefore, I would like to propose this. Team proposition stands for freedom, democracy, and human right. Team opposition does not. Thank you for paying attention.
Second speaker from proposition team, thank you very much for your speech. Now I would like to invite opposition's second speaker. Meantime,
Time of speech for proposition. Speaker number 2 was 7 minutes and 22 seconds.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the honorable panel of judges, and my fellow debaters. I, as the second speaker of the opposition team, will be proving why our House is advocating against the motion is completely logical and factual. Firstly, children will be easily influenced. Have you ever tried bribing your child, your little sister, your little brother, with a small candy or something delicious to get what you wanted? This proves how easily influenced children are. We've all tried it. Since they lack the common sense to understand what's going on, children will not have the mental capacity to comprehend political matters. As the second speaker of the proposition team has stated, Black people, Jewish people, and children are not the same. Just because Black people and Jewish people could not vote in the past does not mean children also does have the right to vote now. Common sense suggests that children aren't interested in politics whatsoever. And so if they were to be allowed to vote, they'll do it under the influence of adults who are politically motivated. Children do not want money. They do not care about the better future for the country. What children want is undecided. Accepted.
You say that children are incapable of common sense. However, what do you have to say for the case of Greta Thunberg?
Thank you for your question. As for your question, what I was implying in my speech is that children are scientifically proven to not, most of the children are not able to comprehend political matters. Back to my speech. If you've ever talked with a child, you would know that they live in a world that is filled with butterflies and rainbows. The audience, the panel of judges, must all ask themselves, considering the bleak situation the world is in right now, why is the proposition team arguing that children should be allowed to vote? We cannot put full trust in children as they will be targeted hardest by the campaigns. As I've stated earlier in my speech, since children are prone to change their opinions easily if they get something that they want. Unfortunately, since we live in a corrupt world, campaigns and companies will specifically target children. May I remind you again, it is scientifically proven by numerous studies that children are not capable of making crucial decisions. It puts pressure on kids who don't even know what they want. Continuing on, they do not know what they want themselves, so they cannot make a crucial decision that will affect millions of people. Childhood is about learning, experiencing, and failing. In this period of time, they won't have the room to fail because the decision is so crucial. Children will never think into consideration of what the consequences will be. We all know how a precious childhood memory is. It's so precious that there is no denying that these children would have a lifelong following political motive because they would be too influenced by their nostalgia, thus creating a biased opinion towards politics. We also have to take into account how many biases are under the full mercy of adults. May I also add, my esteemed judges and dear audience, that there is no evidence that corruption will not occur. There is also no denying that the political parties can use this for their own gains. Examples of training children and manipulating them to believe that their party is the only option for them. Politics will lose its meaning. Ladies and gentlemen, children should not vote because it will corrupt governments and political parties, and children are not grown enough to comprehend issues of the world today. Let's not forget that they are just innocent children. Children having the right to vote is an immature decision that will end up being exploited. Children simply haven't seen enough of this world to discern the good from the bad, the right from the wrong, the just from the corrupt. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Opposition second speaker. The time of speech.
5 minutes and 16 seconds.
Thank you very much. Proposition third speaker, whenever you are ready.
14 to 18-year-olds. What are we aiming at? They're not children, they're young adults. You have to understand that. And future and freedom is what we are aiming at. You have to understand that by having the world dawning on them as young adults to have their own paths and their own countries and their own views and own sighting. And young adults have more opportunities and leadership skills. This allows talented young adults to shine. Since there are children taking care of their household, doing jobs, labor, higher education, why not give them the opportunities to vote? This is the smallest thing we could do for them. And this inciting of this for our country, this is corrupt, as you all said. And our opinions are already crossed. And these opinions are already shared. Why just not let us vote already? And young adults see answers to problems that are complex and new styles, and finding complexity is broken down by it. What about the children that actually work jobs to fulfill their parents that are needed? Think about them. Think about from their own side. They have their own views in life. You have to understand this. In this crucial world, we have to be strong and enough to keep us on our hands and our feet. We have to be strong. And this is just morally correct as others to vote. You have to understand this. Young adults and representatives, no. Or how is this not biased from the opposition side? This is totally biased. You have to see the other sides to this. There are problems that could be solved from many different points of views. Like, how is this not efficient? How is this not efficient? You have to understand and reflect this inside of yourselves. You have to see it. These children, let's take an example from our country. Like this only thing that we were capable of understanding for now, right now. Our country. Well, coal, politics, of course. Our country is corrupted, and we all know this. And we all notice this. Even children know this. Have you seen the capital being fulfilled by children raising their plaques? Let us do this. We can do this. We are fulfilled from our side. We can do this. We are capable of voting. Like, we are in the parliament section, like, debating about laws and statistics. This is efficiency. This is power. We are capable. Our minds are capable. We are capable fully. I'm totally distraught by the people saying that I can't. I can. We can. Young adults can. We are capable of expressing correct views. There are more intellectuals. Why is everyone so biased, thinking children, all of them are just not fully sufficient as others? There are children that are capable of doing things. There are children that are sufficient enough, efficient, that can do the things the same as the others can and capable of. You have to understand this. We all need to see this. And of course, people are just too biased in their mind and have to understand that you will all have children soon. And you don't want your children to live in a corrupt society, world that is just everything is bad. We want to see the views from the children and themselves. We need to understand this. You are all children. Some of you are children, I'm sorry. And just not children, young adults. You have your own mind. No. Sorry, I have no time. And we understand this. We have to know that there are things that are kids, no, not kids, young adults are fully efficient at. We are here debating about carbon tax emissions. This is a big thing. You have to understand this. There's a 17-year-old girl, like this Greta girl. I love her. She's so efficient at understanding this big thing that is bigger than her. She can't even complement like this, all this complexity. But she did, she could, and she was able to do this. You have to all understand that young adults, get this in your mind, young adults, children, not children, young adults. We need to understand this. This is a case considering young adults, of course. From 0 to 13 is a child. We do notice this. We know this. They are child. We do agree in this. You need to also understand that they also have their own complexity and their mind capability. You need to know this. Every kid has their own opinion. Well, voting is one of them. Not their opinion, it's a full thing. Every minority group has to talk and be efficient about what they're delivering at. We're not just randomly scattering words like, oh, I want to vote for this person because he seems nice and he makes YouTube videos. No, this is not what we're aiming at. We're aiming at something totally different, something efficient. If this is totally understood and is totally corrected, we can do this efficiently. We need to understand that as well. And thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Proposition Third Speaker. Speech time was?
5 minutes and 50 seconds.
I would like to now invite third speaker from opposition team. In the meantime, audience, please keep silence and respect the teams debating here.
this House would allow children to vote. From this topic, as you can see, the key word is children. And so far, all the ideas proposed by the proposition team has involved young adults. Children classify as individuals who are in their adolescent years, as we have defined in our first speaker's speech, individuals who are under the age of 18. And the comparisons that have overlapped in the proposition speech make no logical sense, because they keep asking questions such as, if young adults vote, they will be able to choose decision makers and vote for policies that will make a change and make a difference that applies to them, that meets their desires, their wants. However, if we think about it, young adults, young people in general, all around the world, have the ability to vote already. If we allow children to vote, then the premature minds who are yet to understand themselves fully, understand their surroundings fully, will be able to vote. In that case, how will that correlation work? Because at the end of the day, what we lack in today's policy is young people's participation, not children's participation. Because if young people were to participate in the decision-making of policies or choosing a decision maker in the first place, these flaws wouldn't happen. Because, and also to move on about children are human too, and they have needs and wants and desires that should be met in policies and designs of everything that has to do with law and specific policies. However, to rebut this point, children are human too. Yes, the opposition will admit that. However, are children ready to make a decision or to think beyond themselves, to think beyond the personal world, to think about decisions that will affect not just them, but millions of other, not just children, but families, but people, groups of people, minorities? So, to move on to another rebuttal. If some children are allowed to work, why can't they vote? Well, it's the exact same argument as that. If they're allowed to work because they can gain experience from the real world in order to prepare themselves to make decisions that is critical as policies or choosing a decision maker. And to move on to a rebuttal proposition team offered. Children cannot, well, there isn't an example of children being brainwashed or influenced or manipulated by political parties in order to make a decision that favors them. However, if political parties, as an example, the U.S. presidential election, Donald Trump, it has been verified that Donald Trump used unethically obtained data from social media sites in order to design a targeted campaign that's specifically tailored to voters' desires. How is this not unfair? How is this not equal? How is this not manipulation on the most mass scale? And if this is happening with adults, not just children, imagine how the effects could be for children. Imagine how easily that information and that data will be obtained when it comes to children's usage on the internet or other sources of information or data. And to move on to the propositions, another point that I would like to rebut. Children versus minorities. They compared Black people, Jewish people, not having the rights to vote until recently, or a few decades, or in the last century, and it took quite a bit of fight, quite a bit of time in order to achieve that. But how are we comparing children to minorities? Because children can be from every single minority. All of those minorities have children, and those minorities already represent the ideals of the children by the votes of their parents, because they will at least try to achieve a solution that benefits their children as much as their rights and what their desires are. And to move on to the proposition's big idea of efficiency. Well, young adults or adolescent people or adolescent individuals will be able to make decisions at a fast rate, or able to have an emotional literacy when it comes to decision making itself. How can we compare that speed to effectiveness, to quality? Because they take an example of well, a famous example of Greta Thunberg, who is 17 years old. If Greta Thunberg, if all children were like Greta Thunberg when they were 17 years old, then this policy would be no question. Because at the end of the day, taking her as an example is only an exception to the rule. Because we aren't able to take this one person and apply it to an example, not just of millions, but of billions of people, billions of children who live on this planet Earth. And to conclude, we live in a world full of chaos, corruption, and instability. To fix these issues, we need decision makers who will be able to implement policies that will make a change. And in order to choose such a decision maker, we need people with experience, more than emotional literacy, or the proposition has stated, efficiency and fast decision making. To let individuals of young age into this world without enough time for personal development and clear direction of what they want, because their opinions change so frequently, it is a route that we are taking that will inevitably end shortly. Proud to oppose.
Reply speeches have no POIs or point of information.
May I please start? All right. To start my reply speech, throughout the whole debate, the proposition has proposed 3 main points, of which all have been rebutted by our second and third speakers efficiently. 1. As the proposition compared Greta Thunberg to every child, would you compare every adult to Barack Obama? No. Just because they're in the same age group, it does not mean that they make the same choices in life and further on. 2. They use the term young adults as the topic clearly mentions child. The term young adult and child are 2 very different scientific concepts, as they have failed to recognize that. As 3, children are capable of doing many things, as the third speaker of the proposition team has emphasized for 5 whole minutes about children can do this. We agree. Our opposition team agrees. Children can do many things, but voting is not one of them. Just because a person has an opinion, it does not mean it is correct. As the proposition team has argued multiple times that children have opinions. Yes, everybody has opinions, but not all of them are correct. So the main question really sums up to, why not give them a better education than the right to vote? The proposition team has stated multiple times about the concept of efficiency, but hasn't given a single point scientifically proving that children are capable of voting. Meanwhile, our opposition team has proposed 5 main points. 1, children can be easily influenced as they are developing and not fully developed. 2, as the whole campaigning towards children will promote corruption, children can be easy target for political disruption. 3, how could possibly make them 3, politics would lose its sole purpose of serving the public right. As I've mentioned multiple times over my speech. 4, children has not seen enough, as we have emphasized on that point multiple times as well. 5, politics would lose its meaning. All 5 of the points that we have presented has not been rebutted solely from the proposition team. Now, our side of the house has given enough reasoning, facts, evidence, and argumentation. I think it's clear who the winning team is. I'd like to thank the judges and the audience for their attention, and the proposition team for giving us a good argumentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our opposition team. Now I would like to invite proposition team to make your reply speech. Time of speech for opposition reply.
3 minutes and 25 seconds.
Thank you.
Now, side opposition has been wrong from the very start. We have clearly explained, our first member has clearly explained that when we refer to children, we're referring to young adults who are between the ages of 14 and 18. However, as the opposition speaker 1 and 2 have talked about, they've talked about how children have this rainbow imagination. Of course, these young adults don't have imaginations like that. Their definition has been wrong from the very start, and thus they misunderstood the context of the argument. Of course, it's insane to allow a 3-year-old to vote. But proposition believes that was very clear from the very start. Now, with regards to the arguments of the other side, they have not rebutted or addressed the arguments that we have put forward. We have put forward arguments regarding human rights, about how it supports democracy, about how it supports diversity, and disallows ageism, and disallows discrimination based on race in employment, economic opportunities, and others. They have not said a single word about that. The most outrageous of which is on human rights. Now, moreover, we have given the example of education and childcare. Children, young adults are the ones who actually participate within these measures. And as such, we have explained clearly that they should be able to express their own opinions on how they should be reformed, about how they should be run. However, they have not refuted that. And they even had the audacity to say that involving children in politics will disrupt politics. No, politics revolves all around the future of which is children. Now, moreover, they mentioned the idea of politics being disrupted by children being brainwashed by individuals such as Trump. And they have even said that children's opinions can be correct, but also wrong. But adults can be correct and wrong as well. There's no difference here. This argument does not make sense. Moreover, they have stated before that young adults don't have their own desires. I disagree. I say that young adults have their own unique individual ideologies, and as such they deserve to represent them in politics. They have given the example that the adults who are in representation will carry on the will of the children. However, only children may understand what they want in politics and what they don't. Adults are incapable of fully understanding the perspectives of children. Now, they have brought forward the idea that Greta Thunberg is a unique individual. I disagree. I think that young people are just as smart and just as well informed on world politics as Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg is only different in that she's the first one to speak out. After her speech, many millions of young people have spoken up against climate change. Therefore, she is not an isolated case. They have also stated that politics serves the public, but the public also includes children. We concur. We say that we are the ones who stand for our future, our next generation, and human rights. We prepare them for the future by allowing them to vote. The pillars of freedom, democracy, and human rights supports Team Proposition. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for Proposition Team for concluding this round of debate. And at this moment, I would like all of us to congratulate for both teams for a wonderful job done. And proposition reply speech duration was
3 minutes and 57 seconds.
I would like to share my gratitude, deep gratitude for everyone. Starting with the participants, please give yourselves a big round of applause. Yeah, I'm so proud of you all. So proud of you all. And as many judges were expressing, actually, we are very humbled by this experience and really seeing the bright future of Mongolia. And of course, we really hope to be able to bring this kind of debating, constructive policy debating to the attention of the policymakers like ourselves. That's why we brought her here also. Because, as for Educated Enterprise, we were founded 5 years ago with the mission of really organizing, coming up with and initiating different kinds of programs and projects to empower and enable social groups like yourselves, like youth, teenagers, to be part of our intended sustainable and inclusive growth, right? So at the United Nations level, at the national level, we're all working towards the same goal of achieving the sustainable and inclusive growth. So it's all about that. And, this kind of initiative is something we have been doing with our partners. And for this specific initiative, for example, I would like to send out a big thanks to our main partner, Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI. So please, who has, of course, inspired our first round of motion, which was about that this house would allow carbon tax on what was.
This House would tax every organization on their carbon emissions to combat climate change.
So that was very well researched by our team, all of our teams. And for the second round, it was impromptu earlier on today. And the topic was?
The second topic, the motion for the semi-final, that is the impromptu round. The motion was, this House believes that parents should control how much time their children spend using electronics and the internet.
Thank you very much, Ider. He's really the main lead of this initiative. That's why he knows the details. Yeah, thank you, by the way. We can also thank him. Has spent so many sleepless days and nights. Our team, educated team also. Thank you, guys. Thank you, educated team. And our partners and supporters, including PIC.MN. It's also SDG-oriented media agency who are also filming here. Over here, thank you, team. PIC.MN. And we also were able to be supported by Karl Popper Debate Association, Royal Academy, this great hall, this great premises we were provided without any charges. It was all provided to us with very much warm welcome. And our colleague Bayer Singit is also there. Of course, in bringing in very qualified judges, we actually had a lot of support from our collaborators and partners like United Nations Association of Mongolia. Yes, thanks to you also. And I hope I'm not missing anyone else. Of course, our judges included, as you must have noticed in our first round, we had 3 judges in every debate, and 3 judges included 1 international judge, 1 previous debater or public speaking competition participant, meaning that they had prior experience. But internationally, it's also encouraged to have every Joe's in the judging team, so that actually whatever we are trying to persuade, whatever we are trying to prove, can be understood by public, not just experts. So that was kind of the criteria we also followed in bringing in our judges, and I hope you also got to learn a lot from our esteemed judges. So thanks to all the judges. Some of whom are here, but some of whom hopefully will be also watching this video that will be also broadcasted later on YouTube and our social media channels. So am I missing anybody else? Hopefully not. Many? Who are they?
They know who they are.
Oh, okay, that was the list I was provided. You know, I really relied on the team, but I know that everybody, all the contestants were also given Hippo cards. Hippo cards, free use of how many months? 6 months, right? And hopefully you will also get to try out the app. And if there are any, please remind me later on. But I will pass it on to Ms. Bollantia.
Hi everyone, it's my great pleasure to be here. It's my first time judging actually a debate contest, but when debate was first introduced back in late 1990s, I was one of the first participants in the debate competition when I was a freshman in college. And this was all in Mongolian. And at that time, they were trying to organize one in English. And I mean, we're talking about back in 1998, 1999, when we didn't have such intensive English language schools or programs, and there were not so many participants. And I remember at that time, I went to high school in Australia for about 3 years. So I had just gotten back from Australia, and people were saying, oh, nobody's English is good enough as yours. So there were no other participants. So that's what I was told at that time. But today I'm really awestruck by how good your English is and how smart all of you are, and also how patriotic all of you are, but so worried about how the shape of the country is going to be and what we play as kids in our country's development. Looking at both sides of the argument, and I remember, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably say exactly that. I should be voting. Look at the politicians today. Have they done a better job? Maybe I could have done a better job. When I was at your age, I actually said exactly the same thing. And I don't ever want you to lose that, because we're a country of only 3.4 million people. Every one of you count, every one of your opinion count. If we become a country of dismissive people, then this country is going to be run by whoever. So this is why exactly today's topic was probably, especially as a politician, was very near and dear to my heart. And especially, I also know that especially young people today are very, very opinionated. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she's very opinionated, and she's so critical. She criticizes me all the time with how politics is shaping out to be. If she's stuck in traffic for over an hour, she comes home and she's like, look at the traffic jam, Mom. I mean, this is your doing. That's what she says. But nevertheless, I do think that, for instance, young people's involvement, young teenagers, adults' involvement is very important, which is why, as a member of parliament, I initiated, alongside with the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Zandashatar, Youth Teen Parliament. Have you heard of Teen Parliament? So I was one of the initiators, and UNICEF has supported our initiative. UN and also UNICEF here in Mongolia has supported our initiative. And annually, we select over about 90 students from around the country, from 9th, 10th, and 11th graders, who participate in a whole year round of lessons, online lessons, and also social work. At the end of the year, if they come to UB, this year, for instance, out of the 91 kids, 20 are from SOMs of the 21 provinces. Over 30 students are from the city. Some of them are actually representing your schools as well. And I'm awestruck at what they're proposing, their ideas that they have, their propositions that they're making, the decisions that they want us to make. And they can be very forward-thinking. They are sometimes very progressive. And I wish sometimes I had colleagues like them in Parliament with me. So I would like to say that really your involvement is very much valued by every age and also by the government and the Parliament of Mongolia as well. So last year, for instance, we did half a year of climate change, and we talked exactly that. And we also talked about indoor air quality, how bad construction materials and indoor air ventilation system can cause, especially young children and young adults like you, to have lifelong disease, which could even be one of the causes of cancer, for instance. So all this is pushing forward initiatives that are coming from the young people. Judging, just to give you a few, feedback from the propositions and also from the opposition team, you guys were all great. I don't think I could have done any better than all of you, especially your delivery was really good. You were all very confident on the stage, and it's really hard to be confident, especially in some other language, especially on a topic that you probably to date have not thought deeply. And we have probably, especially in Mongolia, people are quite dismissive of young people's opinion. They're like, oh, you're too young to be participating in this conversation. No, you're not. So you have really made your point there. Just want to point out, especially, this is a two-sided coin. In many parts of the world, people are still debate this. Should children be voting? I think some of the good points that you have made from both sides are adults, sometimes young adults, they are tried in court as, not in juvenile court, but in adult court. If they can be put into prison as an adult, why can't they vote as an adult? That was a really good point, and you haven't followed that forward. That should have been something that I think I wouldn't even have the answer to it. I would be like, hang on, if you're tried as an adult in court in 16, and if you go to prison with adults, how come you can't vote? That was a really good point. You should have probably followed that through. Malicious targeting, that's also a very good point, but you also did not follow that through. That would have been a really good point. Malicious targeting in politics does happen not only to adults, but also, for instance, malicious targeting of women, malicious targeting of specific groups. So that would have been really good points to follow forward. Something like ageism and discrimination, that was quite interesting, especially was that you who said, somebody who's in their 90s who's quite senile, for instance, if she can vote, how come a young adult who's 17 can't vote? That was an interesting point to have made as well. So some of the more probably up to exactly the points that has put a doubt to the judges, sometimes has not been followed throughout the conversation. So for instance, and then sometimes you're hanging onto some of the points that are probably not that important, and you're trying to keep making it over and over again. For instance, Greta Thunberg, yes, she's great, but at the same time, she could be an exception. But at the same time, the good point was, yes, but then not everybody is Barack Obama, right? So that was also a quite interesting concept as well. It's quite disturbing to hear that having young children voting could increase corruption. I don't think that's the case at all. I would like to have more participation of young people, but they're not making the country corrupt. The country is corrupt as it is, and I don't think you guys were not involved in this. You didn't vote, however, there is still corruption. So it's not caused by children, but it's caused by something else, right? The whole system itself. Sometimes as voters, as adults, probably we're not as well versed in election and in democracy as it should be. So all these are very, very good points, and I would like to applaud both sides and all of the participants throughout the whole day who have participated in this three-phase debate. And this, I'm sure this was not easy, and you were all awesome. Congratulations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure spending the last 2 days with you. I have very, very much enjoyed hearing your arguments, hearing your thought processes on these very important subjects. I must say, and I'd like to echo the points that have already been made, as an Englishman, it's an absolute honour to hear you, as Mongolians, young Mongolians, speak so eloquently and beautifully in my language. Well done to each and every one of you. I'm enormously impressed. Please. Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. And also to take on that point of involvement. This is a weekend. It's the end of a cold, long term at school. It's the darkest term. It's the longest term. It's the coldest term. And here you are, in this room, working. You're the ones who are engaged. You're the ones who care. And you're the ones whose voices do need to be heard. I'm extremely impressed to see the future of Mongolia in this room, and I think it's very, very bright indeed. You should be proud of yourselves. Each and every one of you, because you got out of bed and you came here to make your voices heard, to learn how to communicate. There is no more powerful skill on earth than the ability to be able to persuade and agree and learn from one another. Debate is not a public speech. It's not preparation. It's listening to the interplay between you and the opposition. And as we saw with our previous motion on the power of the internet and devices, if all you ever listen to is social media, you're only going to hear what you already think. And that is dangerous. Don't do that. Come to things like this and listen to one another. Be free and open in your ideas. Be ready to change your minds. And in that respect, the world and your country will be a very much a better place. I think you've done enormously well. Now, it's my honour, my privilege to announce the winners. No, I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to get there. Don't worry. I know what I'm saying. But I want to make a few points first about the debate itself. Passion, my goodness. Delivery, fantastic. Very, very good indeed. Very good. As I said, debate is about interplay. And two things which I don't think were as good as they could have been were the use of points of information. That has to be stronger. Be brave. Stand up, be insightful. If someone says something which you know to be a little bit shaky, you need to get there and quickly. That needs to be stronger. Don't be afraid to put your opinion across, and don't necessarily always wait till it's your chance to speak. Make sure you use that opportunity. And sometimes it can be the way to make sure you secure the win. Also, you have a limited time on a podium like this. That's valuable time, really valuable time. Don't lose it, don't crash, don't go down too soon. Take your time and use your time well. Tell us what you're going to say it, and then reinforce those key arguments right at the end. That's what you do. And I think it's fantastic we're here today in the first annual debate in this language. This is marvellous. And I look forward to seeing many of you back again and again and again as we go forward into the future. And I think this is a fabulous place to start. But I suspect with more competition, with more opportunity to debate against each other, you'll meet each other many, many times. Your games collectively will only raise. And my goodness me, if you're good now, where are you going to be in a few years' time?
I forgot to mention, I really want to thank our moderators and timekeepers like yourselves. And I think a lot of you are here also, and our volunteers, dear volunteers. So yeah, please, round of applause for the volunteers, timekeepers, moderators. And on the debate, earlier on I was really mostly expressing my gratitude, but on the debate, I recently, although I did my master's in public policy in Singapore, I really didn't have the, direct involvement on policy making until quite recently, actually, because the reason why I couldn't be involved in the organization of this event was I recently joined the government, particularly the cabinet secretariat, and started getting my direct involvement in policy making and really making use of what I've learned also through this kind of ground up approaches, this kind of initiatives. So I wanted to actually tell the team members as well as everyone who are here, especially the debaters, when you're in policy debate, what I found to be very effective is always start with the law, existing law. For example, when this team was proposition team and the opposition team was arguing, debating on the definition of children, actually according to, correct me if I'm wrong, but according to youth development law, children are defined as everyone under the age of 18. right? So when you refer to this law and then that will make your argument very strong. And then, you can suggest different kinds of adjustments in practice in the law, etc. So I would like to really tell you, based on my own experience, always start with the law, seek if there is any issue over there, and propose the solutions with your evidence and the facts, right? Not so much based on your emotions or personal opinions, but try to use as much facts and evidence as possible, and always start with the law. Thank you. And now you may announce the winner for next year's tournament and going forward. We're really looking forward to partnering in deeper forms with British School of форматаар, Jonathan. So for next year, and hopefully, it's. I think if you guys keep showing this kind of enthusiasm and support, we might be able to make it even international next year. So please, keep on supporting, keep on following us, and sharing your ideas and opinions to make it even more inclusive and even more international. Okay, thank you.
Thank you to our honorable judges. Before they announce the winner, I just want to stress the fact that this is the first tournament in Mongolia that has been done using World Schools Debate format. Or it's the shorter name, or the World Schools Debating Championship format. And this was our pleasure to organize it for the first time.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the bit you've been waiting for. Now then. We're combining the scores, which come to a total of potentially, a possible, 1,050 points per team. And the proposition have gained 777 points, but the opposition on 798, I would like to declare the opposition the winner. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, well done. And very well played and very close to their gallant opposition. Well done, chaps. Thank you very much indeed.
Congratulations to Sant team. Once again. Нэгмэр сүрэн алтан хуйг Sant team. Хүрв жаргал Бямб Баяр Sant team. Оюун Бэлэг Батбаяр Sant team. Наранхүү Баяр Магна Sant team. Наранхүү Баяр Магна. Наранхүү Баяр Магна. Trophy goes to Sant. The award includes, the award prize for the first place is every team member receives 1 million togruks worth of educational programs from Educated Enterprise. We also do have a prize from our venue sponsor, Royal University, Ms. Bayer Tsingil. She's the head of the marketing department of the Royal International University.
Good evening, all. Congratulations to all debaters, debating students. We are happy to all successful students to scholarships, and certificate. Congratulations for the annual National English Debating Tournament that have been earned. We really proud with your dedications and contributions in regards to successful participation. Royal International University offers a first year 16 scholarships on their own your choice programs. Most of our university programs conducted in professional English, and for example, business administration 2+2 program in American National University and Korean Far East University, and 2+2 program. Your choice and 16 scholarships give to you. All team leaders.
Thank you very much. Team Unity receives runner-up. We would like to invite the members of Team Unity. Team Unity receives 500,000 Togruks worth of educational programs from Educated Enterprise. Also, they receive 60% tuition discount scholarship from Royal International University. We are very grateful for this generous gift. Congratulations to Team Unity from Mongol Aspiration for receiving the runner-up place and prize. Thank you to our esteemed judges and our sponsors for award ceremony for your generous comment and feedback for both teams who made it to the final of Annual National English Debating Tournament 2022. We are so very grateful for every participant who joined us. Our judges, our timekeepers, our moderators, our cameraman, our colleagues and teams, everyone, thank you so much. See you next year. Happy holidays!